Hi there, class. I just wanted to make a quick video for you guys today about some of the basics of the essay, right? Because I know all of you are finishing up your essays right now, so let me go through some of the key things you need to do. So, first of all, your essays are to be given to me in MLA format, right? So that means Times New Roman, 12 font, double space, 1-inch margins, and works cited is the last page. So I'm going to use this Othello example essay that I discussed last week, right? The one that I posted the other week, right? Just to talk about some of these things, right? This is the one with the person that thought Iago is in love with Othello, right? That wonderful essay. So this essay, right? You see, 12 font, Times New Roman, uh, and then the spacing is double, right? Nice and good right there. And the person didn't mess with their margins, and they've got 1 inch as their um, indentation. So very good, right? So that's the first thing, right? So everyone should be able to do that, right? If you can't do this, then that's a big problem. Oh, and of course, works cited is on the last page, right? Just the way it should be, right? So that's step one, right? Is to get those basics, the font and the spacing and everything like that under control. So you need to do that. Now, the other thing you need to do is you need to have 9 ingredients for an essay. So I'm just going to go through this essay, right, and talk about how it has each of these ingredients, right? So we start things out with the hook sentence. Let's see what this person wrote. When a villain cannot escape from his unconscious emotions, the struggle inside him can cause a tragedy, right? So that right there gives you your hook sentence, right? It is the person introducing their topic, right, which is about how Iago has unconscious emotions and everything like that, right? So it introduces the topic of the essay, right, and it makes it so that the reader knows what this thing is going to be about. After that, the person writes, in Shakespeare's Othello, the villain Iago, driven by his unclear motivation, causes the tragic end of all characters, including himself. While assuming Iago symbolizes the devil that is cruel by nature can provide an adequate explanation for Iago's thoughts, the thought that Iago himself may struggle with his homosexual affection for Othello can offer a new point of view. So, this is the person's background sentences, right? And so they only talk about how Iago is bad and that he might have hidden feelings, right? I will again repeat that this is sort of a ridiculous essay, but, that's why I like it, because I know that no one else is going to do this. Anyway, the background sentences are meant to give you your background for the topic at hand, right? So if you're doing something about, Othello and racism, right, then you probably should say something about how, Iago hates Othello due to his skin color, or maybe something about how there's institutional racism on the island, or something like that, right, is always good. Whereas if you're doing something about Emilia, right, you should maybe talk about women in Shakespeare's time, how they're property of men and men being their father and their husband, right? So you can talk about all of that stuff too. So depending on what your topic is, will change your background, right, into whatever it is that you are arguing. All right, so background sentences. This person wrote 2, which is sufficient, right? Let's see. How did the person do for word count? 1073. That is absolutely fine, right? Remember, works cited doesn't count. So I imagine that the person only made 2 sentences for background because they needed to save words, right? So it's totally fine to have a short intro paragraph. Now let's see here. The thesis then is, in a sense, Iago's hostile feelings towards Othello can in fact be driven by a hidden attraction to his general that he cannot otherwise resolve in his society. So there's the very strange thesis, right? But this thesis is good because it articulates a clear position, right? So what this person is trying to prove is that Iago secretly is in love with Othello, right? And that's why he does all these bad things to him. It's kind of weird, but again, let's leave that aside for the moment, right? The thesis is exactly where it should be. Remember, your thesis is the last sentence of the first paragraph, right? This is where it lives, right? Right there in the last sentence of the first paragraph. If your thesis is anywhere else, right? If this person did it like this, right? Did that, then they would be in big trouble, right? Because the thesis is the last sentence of the first paragraph, right? And they would not have gotten a 90 or whatever I gave this with that kind of essay. All right. So, intro paragraph, hook, background, thesis. Then the person goes into their supporting paragraphs, right? Let's see how much of this I can read without laughing. So, apart from the religious perspective, the belief that Iago has developed homosexual feelings towards Othello could offer an explanation based more on psychological ground. Rejected to be Othello's lieutenant by the general himself, Iago seeks revenge through betrayal. A bystander like Rodrigo could easily forgive such rejection and may choose to quit if he feels insulted. However, Iago's hidden attraction to Othello would cause Iago to feel betrayed when he got denied, which justifies his extreme irritation. This would really say when he says, God bless the mark, his worship's ancient, and then she has the citation there. The hatred of Iago caused by not only Othello's refusal, but also the rumor that Othello slept with Emilia. Oh, that should be... I should have not given this a 90. That should be was caused. Not caused. Yeah. There we go. Considering the lack of love and regard of Iago to Emilia when he abuses her as a foolish wife, or calls her by a term for a servant, a good wench, it is possible that Iago does not feel angry with Emilia's betrayal, but rather with Othello himself for lusting with other women. Although Iago believes his hatred toward the Moor drives his betrayal, his indignation may be induced by his unfulfilled desires to be with Othello unconsciously. Okay, so, ridiculous as that is, we've got here a topic sentence that connects directly to the thesis, right? That is what you want to do when you are creating an essay, right? So you got your topic sentence, and it ties directly to the thesis, which is that Iago is, attracted to Othello, right? So that is what the person's thesis is. So that topic sentence is very clear. Now you'll note the quotes, right? So the quotes are all cited, right, with just Shakespeare 1.133, right? So that's what you guys should be doing. Remember, the first number is the act, the second number is the scene, the third number is the line. You don't need to put page number, right? That is unnecessary. Don't do that. If you do it, then it's wrong. So please keep that in mind. Now, you'll also notice that the person, right, they've got their quote here, and then it has the hatred of Iago was caused by not only Othello's refusal, but also the rumor that Othello slept with Emilia, right? So that there is the analysis, right? So when you are quoting, don't just throw quotes at me willy-nilly, right? Stop, analyze them, make sure that you know what you're talking about. The last part also ends with this. Although Iago believes his hatred towards the Moor drives his betrayal, his indignation may be induced by his unfulfilled desire to be with Othello consciously. Right? That's a concluding sentence. Right? And you don't need to always put to conclude. Right? You can just sort of repeat the idea. But nevertheless, you want all of your paragraphs, your body paragraphs, that is, to end with concluding sentences. All right, so those are my next three ingredients, by the way, right? Topic sentence, supporting sentences, and a conclusion. Now, let's keep going, right? Let's see if I can point more things out. Second paragraph. To a certain extent, Iago's jealousy of Desdemona and Cassio, whom Othello loves or trusts the most, can explain his hostility towards the two. Although Iago plans to take revenge on Othello, he chooses to harm Desdemona and Cassio rather than Othello himself. With Cassio, Iago wants to get Cassio's place and to plume up his will. He does not only want to replace Cassio's position, but also wants to take advantage of him to make Othello question Desdemona's loyalty, right? So let me again point out the way this person is using quotes, right? You've got the quote right here, right? And it's cited properly and everything like that. But then a sentence comes immediately afterwards that analyzes the quote, right? It tells me, the reader, what I should think of that quotation. Let's keep going. And Iago, filled with jealousy, dedicates himself to segregate Othello from the people trusted by Othello. Witnessing Othello kissing Desdemona, Iago promises to himself that he will set down the pegs that will make this music as honest as he is. And then there's a nice citation. He pushes Othello towards feeling betrayed by the people the general loved, just as Iago feels betrayed by Othello when the general denied him. Okay, so this is the silliest essay ever. Anyway, so one other thing you'll notice, I talked about this earlier in the course, but it's something to remember, right? The person put in square brackets, he is, right? With that, in order to change the quotation. So if you ever need to do that and change a quote, right, you just put it in square brackets like that. So let's see. By inducing Brabantio to disrupt Desdemona's wedding and arrange chaos to interrupt her consummation with Othello, Iago denies Desdemona the happiness she can enjoy with Othello, just as Iago was denied the opportunity to be with the general. Having destroyed Desdemona and Cassio, Iago can become the only person Othello can trust. While repeatedly emphasizing his hatred towards Othello in his soliloquy, Iago must not realize that he has been acting on his secret desire to become the most important person to his general, right? So, once again, right, the quotations are cited properly and they've got solid evidence, and the person ends the paragraph with a proper concluding sentence, right? So, topic sentence, supporting sentences, conclusion. That's what I want, guys, and that's what you should give me. So, I've been calling this person's argument ridiculous because, you know, it is a kind of a silly essay, right? It's I consider this to be a sort of like someone who watches, you know, Star Wars or something and thinks, you know, I don't know, that Luke Skywalker and the Emperor will have an affair or something, right? It's a bit like random in that way, so that's why I do call it silly. That being said, well, let's see. Let's go a little bit further in. Where did I leave off? 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, here we go. So let's go on. Let's see if this person can convince anyone. Right. In contrast with Iago's consciousness during his villainous actions, his attitude towards Othello can again be explained by his affection for the general. Okay. Despite repeating to himself his spite towards Othello unknowingly, Iago constantly confirms his loyalty to Othello, which can also be thought of as a hint to Othello of his hidden attraction. While repeatedly expressing his reliability, my lord, that should have comma and then saying. Right. In fact, let me do that right now. I'll fix. Maybe I should have given this person a C plus, but let's see. Saying, my lord, you know I love you. Right. Shakespeare 33117, or I am yours own forever. Citation again. Iago convinces Othello that in Venice, women do let heaven see their pranks. They dare not show their husbands. Their best conscience is to leave it undone, but keep it unknown. Although the comment can simply serve to separate Othello from Desdemona, it can also reveal Iago's honest belief that Othello should trust him as the closest person, instead of any woman in Venice, including I definitely should have given this person a C, Desdemona, since women will cheat on their husbands. At the end of the play, when Othello asks him about the reasons for his wicked plan, he denies giving Othello an answer, saying, what you know, you know. Either Iago wants Othello to die resentful as a final retaliation, or he can never reveal his real excuse, the affection for his general, even in their final moment. Despite Iago's aggression against Othello, his behaviors can always hint at his secret passion to the more. So, now, that's not how I read Othello, right? I don't think that's what Shakespeare had in mind. But you know what? If this person, let's say this person won the lottery tomorrow, right? And they said, you know, with my lottery winnings, I want to hire a bunch of actors, and I'm going to be the director, and we're going to make an Othello that's like this, and an Iago that's like this, right? Where Iago's motivation is this instead. You could do that. one of the reasons why Shakespeare sort of survives for 500 years is that every new generation sort of looks at it in a new way, right? And the way Shakespeare was looked like in, say, for instance, the 19th century would be a lot different from the way we look at it today. When I look at Othello, right, I see a play that is very much about anti-racism, right? About colored man in a hostile situation who loses his self-esteem and is brought down by a devilish human being. Uh, if you were to see this play in the 18th century, if we were to go back to the time of slavery, right, or the time of segregation in America, and see this play then it would probably be a play about a stupid black man who gets tricked, right? So Shakespeare, perhaps uniquely in English literature, probably because he's so popular, gets what we call reread, right? And so, I look at this essay and I laugh because it is silly, but you know, at the same time, right, I can't say it's an invalid way to read it, right? Because it's ultimately, the person is providing their reasoning, and there's no way I can say that my interpretation of Shakespeare is 100% the valid one, and that this person's interpretation of Shakespeare is wrong, right? So English teachers sometimes will say, there are no wrong answers, right? Uh, and that perhaps is misleading, right? It's not so much that there are wrong answers as much as there are bad answers, right? So I don't agree with this interpretation of Othello. I think, the whole point of Othello is that the Iago has to not like him, right? Or else it doesn't really make sense to me as a play. And that has nothing to do with, by the way, homosexuality. It's just like, it's a conflict between these two people. But so I don't agree with this. However, right, at the same time, I can say, um, you know, that an essay like this cannot be considered wrong, right? Because it is the person's interpretation. And that is why, right, even though I don't really see it this way, I did give this person 90 plus, in spite of their, missing words here and there, right? It is, a really good essay for that reason. And your essays can reach that same level, right? Even if I don't agree with what you're saying, right? You can still get there. So let's just finish it, right? Given his society where homosexuality is unacceptable, Iago may have been struggling with his own feelings, which eventually corrupts his personality. Iago himself may never dare to admit or let anyone know of his emotions towards his general. However, unconsciously, in offering himself to be Othello's lieutenant, he cannot resist the desire to stay by Othello. The general's refusal of Iago, his marriage with Desdemona, and the promotion of Cassio conspire to destroy Iago and cause his personality to collapse. Consequently, Iago releases his unconscious jealousy and emotions by destroying the relationship between Othello, Desdemona, and Cassio, causing the tragic end for everyone, including him. Even though he is depicted as the main villain, Iago himself cannot escape the destruction of his own feelings. So, again, it's not the way. I don't think any of the productions of Othello that have been linked and that I've talked about in class could support this. But look, I can imagine a Othello production, right? When this person wins the lottery, that would go like this, right? You could have the actor sort of act like that, right? And it would be weird, right? I don't think that's not what I would do, right? But it is a valid interpretation, right? So again, right, in your own essays, right, as long as you're providing solid reasoning for me like this, if you want to say, for instance, that Shakespeare is racist, right? I don't agree with that. I think that, for his time and his context, he was sort of remarkably able to present a minority experience, and I think that I very strongly think that Shakespeare wasn't racist. But if you argue in your essay Shakespeare is racist, yeah, and you can prove it, right? You can give me good reasoning, right? And the logic is sound and everything like that. Then yeah, you'll do well. And so same thing applied to this essay, right? I can tell you, some of the students in the class at the time heard that I gave it such a good mark, and they were like, "How did he give such a good mark?" I said, "Well, it's really well written." Anyway, so to get to the end here, so we can wrap this up. So all of those paragraphs, by the way, supporting sentences or supporting paragraphs had topic sentence, supporting sentences, and conclusions. Right, all of them had that, which is what you want in an essay. Then you have your conclusion, right? And the concluding paragraph has 3 ingredients. You need a restated thesis, a summary, and a send-off. So the person started with a restated thesis. From a modern perspective, the villainous actions of Iago may result from the homosexual feelings which he cannot express to his general, right? So that's his restated thesis, or her restated thesis, rather. And that is, where the person just repeats what the thesis is, right? So very straightforward there. Then it's the summary, right? And I hope you guys remember what I said to do for the summary. The combination of Iago's unfulfilled desire to be with Othello and the jealousy of Othello's lover and lieutenant may trigger Iago's plots to destroy Desdemona and Cassio while he does not directly harm Othello himself, right? So you've got that first summary sentence, right? You'll notice it reaches back to what the person wrote in their first body paragraph, right? And that is exactly what you should do for the summary. The summary is just repeating the key points of your arguments, and if you've done your topic sentences properly, all you need to do is go back to your topic sentences, right? And then, although believing that he is taking revenge on Othello, Iago may not realize that he himself cannot stop giving Othello the hint at his secret affection by confirming his loyalty to Othello repeatedly, right? So, again, going back to the topic sentences, right? That was the subject of her second body paragraph here, right? So, that is, again, what you should do, right? If you do your body paragraphs properly, right, then this part should be easy because you're just going back and looking. Then you've got the struggle between Iago's consciousness and unconsciousness, which breaks down his personality, can be the reason behind the pathetic end of the play, right? So, again, summarizing the previous points. Now, the last thing you do is a send-off, right? Which is a sort of way for you to conclude the whole essay and to wrap things up, right? Think of it as a concluding sentence for your whole essay. You never want an essay to just stop, right? You want it to finish. So what the person wrote here is, by leaving a question about Iago's unclear motivation, Shakespeare successfully gave the audience a chance to interpret the tragedy in Othello through their own perspective and experience, which have been changing through time. Oh yeah, see, good student. It's just what I was talking about. So yeah, that is your send-off, right? It's your concluding sentence for the whole essay, right? Wrap it up with a nice bow. And then, of course, you have your works cited as the last page. So those are the 9 ingredients of the essay, and that's what your essays should look like. And yeah, so tomorrow I will be available from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the Google Meetup room, right? I'll be marking essays from whoever has handed it in on time. Hopefully you've already handed it in because, man, I'm really dreading Tuesday night. How am I going to mark all those essays? Blah. But yeah, so Tuesday, 2 o'clock to 3, I'm going to be in the Google Meetup room. You can come in, you can ask me questions about essays, and, talk to me about whatever you want. It'll be your time at that time. So that's the plan for today, or for tomorrow. And for now, I will say I hope the essays are going well. It's been a great class. This is the last video, by the way. So I've enjoyed having you all with me here, and it's been nice. The Google Meetups have been great, and I hope you guys have managed to learn something in these difficult circumstances. So for now, guys, wear your masks when you go out. Wash your hands, stay safe, and I hope you all are doing well.